Coffee, it's hailed as the bean in Western culture that gets us started in the day. But if you're watching this video, I'm guessing you're not like everyone who just accepts the status quo of instant coffee. You need a coffee that really lights up your brain, gets you going, and it's also somewhat healthy for you. Hi, my name is Mark Otobri, owner and founder of Enterprise Fitness, and today I'm going to give you a high-performance buyer's guide to high-performing coffee. So first we're going to start with what most people would be having, and that's the hot coffee. When you are buying this style of coffee, always ensure that it is organic. And the reason why you always want to buy organic coffee is because coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed beans or product crops in the world. And the problem with pesticides is it won't get off the xenoestrogens, which does create a whole host of problems in the body. And because a lot of people are consuming coffee every day and sometimes multiple times a day, that's a lot of exposure to xenoestrogens and pesticides, which can create other health issues and problems over time. So definitely make sure the coffee you buy is organic. There's a number of good coffee organic brands. This one's Jasper's today. And if you're gonna buy this coffee, there's a few ways you can do it. You can buy the beans only and grade them yourself. That's one way to do it, or you can just buy it in a powdered form. But the other thing you're gonna need when buying this coffee is a cafeteria, good old Italian style. Now, a lot of people, they add sugar and milk to coffee, which I think most of you who've seen any of my stuff before know that I'm not a fan of at all. But I'm gonna teach you how to make good coffee, because good coffee doesn't need sugar and it doesn't need milk. One thing I would advise as well is switch all your coffee to short blacks rather than long blacks, because that way you can steadily control the amount of caffeine that you're having. I mean, it's about 125 grams of caffeine in 1 cup, which is considerable. And it does depend on your tolerance. Everyone's a little bit, their tolerance is going to be a little bit different in terms of caffeine. Some people can tolerate a hell of a lot more. Other people are very sensitive. Other people are delusional. They've just been drinking coffee for too long and they've, wiped out their sensitivity. The other thing you should also consider with coffee is you never want to drink it before bed. Sorry, my Italian and probably WOG friends watching this videos, is coffee, or caffeine specifically, does have a half-life of about 6 hours. So if you do have a cup at about 8 p.m. or even 6 p.m. and you go to bed, let's say at 9 or 10 p.m., that is going to prevent you from getting a really deep night's sleep, because caffeine does bind with the receptors in your brain. It basically blocks receptors in your brain, so you're not going to get that well-rested feel. But before a workout, start of your day, fantastic. So the way we make this one work for the cafeteria, the first step is we get our cup. I like to measure everything. We go over, get some fresh water. We're going to fill that up to the level of the cup, so there's no wastage. I don't like wasting any of the water. I want all the coffee to be, solidified in that. So I always like to use just the right amount of water. I don't just blindly fill it. So you fill the water in there, pop that in, and then you're going to get your about a tablespoon, a heaped tablespoon of coffee, depending on how much you're serving. If you're serving it out for a lot of people, then you're going to need to put more in to make it stronger and more water. But again, I like to measure it out. Usually you might get 2, maybe 3 cups of coffee out of one of these, depending on how strong you like it. This is actually quite a bit of a strong cup of coffee. So from here, I'm going to pop it on the stove and let it boil, and we're going to come back to it in a minute. So while that's boiling, we're going to move on to my 3 favorite coffees. The first one we're going to look at is the Four Sigmatic, and it sounds like I'm a spokesman for Four Sigmatic because I talk about them a heck of a lot, but I'm not. I'm not sponsored. Four Sigmatic, if you're watching, please send me a free crate, but I do love their product. The one that I like the most is this one, which is the Think Coffee. It has the lion's mane and chunga. Now, lion's mane is a nootropic. They're both mushrooms. Lion's mane and chunga are both mushrooms, so this is what's referred to as mushroom coffee. This one specifically for the lion's mane mainly has an effect on the brain. Chunga, on the other hand, mainly is useful in humans as an antioxidant. There are some studies around that shows useful effects in cancers and things like this, but the dosage you're having in this isn't going to have make any difference in someone's cancer. At least I don't think. You're going to need a hell of a lot more, and from a different part of the mushroom than what they use here. The lion's mane, on the other hand, I have found this, because for me personally, I can't have a lot of coffee, and that's kind of what led me on my coffee quest to find different coffees to get me started in the morning. And this is definitely one that I've found to have worked and worked very, very well. This only has 50 milligrams of caffeine per serve, which is low enough that it doesn't really, if you do get any stomach irritation or issues, you're running to the toilet after a cup of coffee, you won't get it with 50 milligrams of caffeine. But if you do need and are relying on caffeine for a big caffeine surge before a workout per se, this probably isn't the one. But it will help you before a big day of thinking, admin tasks, meeting, to get you on point, to get you sharper. I really rate it. I really do like them. In terms of taste, a lot of people are maybe a little bit turned off when you say the word mushroom and they think, does it taste like mushroom? I would say simply it doesn't taste like a mushroom, although if you do have it a little bit cold, there will have a mushroomy fragrance to it almost. For example, it tastes almost like an instant cup of coffee, but a bit nicer. The other one that I like to use, this one I will use before a workout. This is the Cordyceps and Chunga. And again, Chunga is useful in humans as more of an antioxidant. So that's a great mushroom. They also refer to it as the king of mushrooms. Cordyceps is a well-rounded mushroom. It has a lot of effects on the body, mainly boosting immunity. I find this one better pre-workout. Again, it only has the 50 milligrams of caffeine. This one does work for me better pre-workout than this one, but my ultimate favorite before a workout, and probably my ultimate favorite, is the cold press first press coffee. So this is cold coffee, and there's about 20% of the population that unfortunately I fall into that caffeine or coffee raises their blood pressure too high. So that's a big bomb for me not to have too much coffee. So max coffee I'd be having personally per day is 1, maybe 2 cups. For some people, they can go 3 to 6 cups is what's advised. I personally think 6 cups for people is way too much. The most I would look at for anyone is 3 cups. But again, I look at caffeine as almost taking out a loan. If you continue to take out a loan energetically, you're gonna have to pay it off. So you don't wanna survive on caffeine, but the way you wanna use caffeine and coffee is definitely pre-workout or before a sporting event or before you're doing something, because you wanna use the caffeine. Again, you never wanna be having caffeine at the end of the day. You wanna be using that caffeine because ultimately caffeine will increase the amount of cortisol in your body, and cortisol is a glucose upregulating hormone. So cortisol will basically help shuttle a glucose into the body, but you need to use that glucose in doing some activity. So caffeine, again, will increase brain power, but for the cold press, I find that my issues with stomach, blood pressure, all that just aren't there. It must be to the way it's made. It's cold press, it's dripped, which some people say it increases the amount of caffeine, others will say it decreases. I think from everything that I've looked at, it probably decreases the amount of caffeine that's in the coffee. And the reason why I say that, and it actually works quite well, the reason why I say that is because if you look at the decaffeination process of coffee, a lot of the time they will strip the caffeine out of the coffee bean using water, the slow process of water, and drip it out. So, and anytime you add water to a coffee bean, you are starting to mitigate some of those caffeine effects. So this is the cold press. I really, really rate it. I know Jimmy from First Press, he's a great guy, but I drink this pretty much before almost every workout. So I really do like this one. Another coffee, and again, when I'm using this one, you know, they have the bottle challenge. The bottle is way too much, but this is how much I use. This is my short black glass, and I pour it straight in, and I never go over that amount, and I limit it to 1, maximum 2 per day. The other coffee that I wanted to talk about that I don't use anymore, because this is not for everyone, but this is the Before You Speak coffee. There's some folks up in, I think, Brisbane that make this one. I ordered some of this. I really, really like the taste of the Before You Speak. And a lot of people who I've introduced this coffee to love the performance factor of it. Personally for me, I think there's about 125, maybe 115 milligrams of caffeine in this one. I don't know what they've added to it. I think there's some cayenne pepper. What else have we got in here? Green coffee bean extract, turmeric, black pepper. Yep, there's a whole bunch of stuff, a little bit of sweetener in there as well. But for me, I almost feel like it raises me and then I come crashing down. So this one is super performer. A lot of people who I've introduced it to really do like it. So it does deserve a special mention. I think if you can withstand the caffeine, you'll probably get a lot out of this one. But for those of you who are a bit more like me, it's probably not the one you want to go to. You'll probably be looking at one of the 4 Sigmatics, which is a bit gentler and only at 50 milligrams, or the cold press. So now we're going to talk about, well, what if you can't have coffee? What are you looking for a substitute for coffee? My personal substitute for coffee is again from the Four Sigmatic line, and it's the hot cacao, the reishi mix, and with the cordyceps, sorry, not the, well, it is reishi mushroom. No, sorry, not reishi mushroom. This one's the reishi mushroom. This one's the cordyceps. So cacao in general is neural modulating, and you can get the raw cacao, which I do drink a lot. I mainly drink this one more at nighttime, so I'd have about 1 to 2 cups of cacao per day, just raw drinking cacao. And people look at me sometimes weirdly as, how do I have that? But it really is very, very simple of how to prepare a good cup of cacao, whether you're drinking the Four Sigmatic or raw. Again, with this Four Sigmatic, just whip it open. This one's the before bed, and I found great results with clients having this before bed, and this one as a coffee substitute for people. But this one, again, you just open up the lid, and really there's nothing to it other than getting a heaped tablespoon, whacking it in, boiling some hot water, mixing it around. And look, if you've got kids, great drink you can give the kids, put some honey in it, or if you're like, your kids are like my son, they absolutely hate honey, so maybe just a little bit of goat's milk or coconut milk that you put in there, mix it around, and voila, there you have it. So there it is, folks, how to make a great cup of coffee. Until I speak to you on the next video, train hard, supplement smart, and eat well.